I did a play at the neighborhood playhouse way back called The Midnight Caller. And that night, Kim Stanley came, Robert Mulligan, Horton and his wife. I played a drunk guy, kid guy, looking for some of his girlfriend. And about 2 years later, when they were to cast the part of To Kill a Mockingbird, Horton Foote's wife said, "What about that boy we saw at the neighborhood playhouse?" So that's what, and Robert Mulligan, the director, had been there that night. So
Hollywood doesn't usually wake up quietly. Rumors start. Assistants whisper, managers verify, and only then does the world find out. But this time, the phones rang first. Early Sunday morning in Middleburg, Virginia, inside a private home far from red carpets and paparazzi, Robert Duvall died at the age of 95. No hospital chaos, no dramatic announcement. Just a confirmation sent to a publicist. And within minutes, the industry froze. Because actors die every year, legends don't. At least not the ones who still controlled rooms without raising their voice. Within 30 minutes, studio executives were calling former Godfather crew members. Old production assistants who hadn't spoken in decades suddenly received messages. "Did you hear? Not is it true?" They already knew. The wording was different this time. Final. Al Pacino reportedly stopped a meeting when the call came in. One witness later described the reaction as unusual. No speech, no tribute, just silence and a slow nod. People who worked with both men say Pacino respected very few equals. Duvall was one of them. But as tributes began appearing publicly, something else started privately. The real conversations. The stories people never told while he was alive. Because Robert Duvall had a reputation, directors trusted him and feared what he would say after a take. On The Godfather set in 1971, crew members noticed a pattern. After watching playback, Coppola would hesitate and then adjust blocking exactly how Duvall predicted minutes earlier. Not once. Repeatedly, soon camera operators began watching Duvall's reactions instead of the director's instructions. By the second film, some insiders joked Tom Hagen wasn't just advising the Corleone family. Duvall was advising the movie itself. Then came Apocalypse Now, a production famous for chaos. Typhoons destroying sets, helicopters disappearing mid-scene for real war missions, and actors collapsing from exhaustion. Yet Duvall arrived, prepared, filmed quickly, and left. Efficient to the point it made the rest of the production look unstable. That contrast created tension. Quiet tension. The dangerous kind in Hollywood, because stars compete for attention. Duvall competed for credibility. Directors later admitted scenes changed once he walked on set. Dialogue shortened. Performances slowed. Power shifted not loudly, but unmistakably. And now he was gone. Within hours, tributes called him a giant. But privately, many used a different word, control not over fame. Over truth inside a performance. For more than 60 years, Robert Duvall didn't just act in Hollywood stories. He corrected them. In 1972, when The Godfather became a phenomenon, the public believed Marlon Brando and Al Pacino were the pillars of the film. Inside Paramount Pictures, however, executives worried about someone else. Robert Duvall's negotiating strategy. Unlike most actors at the time, Duvall did not immediately demand a raise for The Godfather Part II. Instead, he waited. According to a 1974 internal memo leaked years later, Duvall asked for script approval on character scenes rather than money. The studio refused. Quietly, tension grew. By 1989, the dispute exploded. When The Godfather Part III entered development, Duvall demanded a salary equal to Pacino's. Paramount offered significantly less. Duvall walked away. Publicly, sounded like a contract disagreement. Privately, Coppola reportedly called it the missing spine of the story. Many cast members believed the absence of Tom Hagen damaged the film's emotional logic, and some critics agreed. After its release in December 1990, the decision became one of Hollywood's most discussed casting conflicts. Years later, Duvall said in an interview that the issue was respect, not money. He never returned to the franchise. The result created a ripple effect. Studios began reconsidering sequel contracts. Agents used the case as precedent for character parity negotiations throughout the 1990s. Duvall had changed industry bargaining without ever holding a press conference. The Philippines, 1976. A war film about madness, slowly became a real psychological war behind the camera. Typhoons destroyed sets. Helicopters were repeatedly taken by the local military for actual combat operations. Martin Sheen collapsed from exhaustion. Marlon Brando arrived overweight and unprepared. But Robert Duvall finished his scenes in less than a week. Crew accounts describe him arriving fully memorized, fully researched, and already performing the character between takes. Coppola later admitted Kilgore's scenes were among the only sequences shot on schedule. That efficiency created tension with other actors who felt the contrast made the production's instability more obvious. Rumors circulated that Duvall refused improvisation sessions involving Brando because he believed they would damage continuity. While never publicly confirmed, assistant directors claimed shooting schedules were rearranged to avoid direct rehearsal conflict between the two actors. The famous surfing attack sequence was originally written differently. Duvall allegedly suggested the calm tone that made the scene disturbing rather than loud. Coppola kept it, but reportedly feared audiences would remember Kilgore more than Willard. History proved him right. By the late 1970s and early 1980s, Duvall had become what studios called dangerously respected. He was consistently nominated but rarely campaigned. In Hollywood, campaigning often mattered more than performance. For The Great Santini in 1979, several Academy voters later admitted privately they assumed he had already won before. He had not. The award went elsewhere. In 1983, Tender Mercies finally earned him the Oscar. But insiders described the victory as complicated. The film was small, inexpensive, and barely marketed. Some studio executives reportedly disliked that a quiet character drama defeated larger productions. Trade papers at the time described the result as an actor's win, not a studio's win. From that point forward, Duvall became selective to the point of frustration for producers. Scripts were rejected not for money, but for psychological inconsistency. Directors sometimes waited months for an answer only to receive a brief message. He wouldn't say that. No explanation attached. It became legend that a major 1990s thriller rewrote its ending after Duvall declined the role, stating the villain's final monologue was unrealistic. The studio never confirmed the claim, but the studio rewrite happened. In 1997, Duvall wrote, directed, produced, and starred in The Apostle. Major studios refused financing. The story involved religion, guilt, and moral ambiguity, not commercially safe themes at the same time. Rather than compromise, Duvall mortgaged property to finish the film independently. Industry executives privately warned it could end his career if it failed. Instead, the film received critical acclaim and another Academy Award nomination. This decision changed how studios viewed late-take career actors controlling projects. Several independent producers later credited the film for encouraging actor-driven financing models in the early 2000s. Behind the scenes, collaborators described Duvall as intensely polite, but immovable once he made a creative decision. Arguments ended not with shouting, but silence. Crew members said silence from him was worse than anger. It meant the conversation was over. In later years, Duvall worked less frequently, but remained influential. Younger actors reportedly sought private advice from him about performance realism rather than publicity strategy. He often emphasized listening over speaking, advice repeated by several performers after his passing. His death triggered immediate tributes, but also reflection on a type of actor increasingly rare, one who altered productions quietly instead of publicly. Over 6 decades, he appeared in landmark films yet rarely dominated headlines outside the work itself. Directors who worked with him often said, scenes changed shape once he arrived. Dialogue shortened. Reactions slowed. Tension increased without volume. With his passing at 95, Hollywood lost not just a performer, but a negotiating force, a script analyst, and a subtle creative authority operating inside productions rather than above them. The camera stopped, but the arguments he started inside scripts will continue wherever actors debate how real a character should be. Long before social media exposed creative disagreements, Robert Duvall had already built a reputation for stopping productions without shouting. The method was simple. He would finish a take, walk to the director, and ask a single question. Why would he do that? Producers learned this question could cost a day of filming. During a 1994 newsroom drama, crew members later described a confrontation that never made headlines. The script required his character to explode emotionally during a confrontation. Duvall disagreed. He argued powerful men rarely erupt publicly unless they have already lost. The director insisted audiences needed intensity. Duvall remained polite, but refused additional takes. The set went silent for nearly 20 minutes. Eventually, the scene was rewritten, calmer, colder. The final cut became one of the film's most praised moments. This pattern repeated across decades. Assistants began marking script pages with notes. Check with Bob first. Writers quietly adjusted dialogue before presenting revisions, avoiding long debates. Some welcomed it. Others resented it deeply. A well-known screenwriter from the late 1990s later admitted an entire monologue was removed because Duvall said real people don't summarize their psychology out loud. The speech had taken weeks to craft. It disappeared in seconds. That influence created friction with younger directors who were used to total control. Yet even they noticed something uncomfortable. Audiences often reacted stronger to the restrained versions. He didn't sabotage scenes, he removed exaggeration. By the 2000s, several actors privately sought his opinion before filming emotional sequences, hoping to avoid overacting. He rarely gave direct instructions, only observations. "You're explaining instead of living," he reportedly told one performer who later credited the comment for changing his career. Not everyone appreciated the approach. Some executives felt projects slowed around him, but they also noticed reviews often highlighted authenticity whenever he appeared. In an industry built on spectacle, he quietly edited reality back into fiction. Unlike many contemporaries, Duvall rarely attended award campaigns or publicity tours beyond obligation. He preferred ranches, horses, and small gatherings over premieres. Agents sometimes struggled persuading him to promote films, fearing studios would interpret absence as indifference. Yet directors who visited him described long conversations about human behavior, rather than cinema technique. He analyzed why people lied politely, why authority figures avoided eye contact, and how fear changes breathing before speech. Many of his performances reflected these details. Pauses lasting half a second longer than expected, reactions occurring before dialogue finished. Colleagues noticed he almost never watched playback monitors for vanity. Instead, he listened to sound levels and background noise. He believed truth in a scene often came from reaction rather than expression. In later interviews, younger actors described receiving handwritten letters after working with him. No advice about fame, only notes about observation. Watch how people sit when they feel unwelcome. Watch how confident people stop blinking during arguments. Watch who interrupts and who waits. After his death, several performers admitted they still used those notes before filming emotionally heavy scenes. Hollywood frequently celebrates transformation. Accents, prosthetics, physical change. Duvall built his legacy on reduction. Remove gestures, remove emphasis, remove performance until behavior remained. This philosophy rarely created headlines, but repeatedly shaped productions from inside. Directors would prepare dramatic crescendos, only to discover the quiet take carried more weight. Now, with his passing at 95, the industry faces a subtle absence, not just a recognizable face, but a silent corrective force inside scripts and rehearsals. The type of actor who didn't chase scenes, he stabilized them. Tributes describe a giant. Crew members describe something different. A calibrator of reality. And in a business powered by illusion, losing the person who kept it believable may be the loudest silence he ever created.